Some understanding needs to be understood. I mean, I don't think we want to go back to the beginning. I don't think people want to understand the beginning. They want to continue to stay in the cage like mine from man's thinking and learning. See, in the beginning, the breath of God was in our souls. See, in the 7 days, the first 7 days, God made, and that was the breath. Over here, we had the flesh of man. You just seen where we came from. Now we over here. There's something in the middle. Now, the first 7 days, God gave breath into the soul. And we became beings, living beings. We're over here, God's creation. We became living beings. Do we want to be ignorant to think that the living beings were on earth? And you're reading Revelation and you're just becoming to know what the Spirit is about. But see, you need to understand the beginning to think you know Revelation. So now, the first 7 days, there was no Spirit. There was no grace. There was not even an anticipation of mercy until after 930 years of Adam and Eve's living, creation that God made. See, Adam was over here. 930 years came. Pause. God stopped time. This was the casting of Adam and Eve out the garden. God did grieve for 40 years. I'm going to come back to time right now. Keep it simple. So, when man fell after 930 years, came over here, we became flesh. Sin came upon us. Now we flesh. Now we need the Spirit from Jesus. Now we got to build our spirit to capture our soul that was captive from the beginning, because we were casted. See, our soul was over here because God was with us. See, this is the God's breath, man's flesh. God's breath, man's flesh. There's some understanding that needs to happen. It needs to be understood. There's some understanding that needs to be understood. God's breath, man's flesh. Look, there's not a man that can date time. There's not a man that knows time. There's not a man that thinks he knows he could put time together and make it correspond with the scriptures. No man. See, our days are numbered because we're not understanding God's breath. We didn't need the Spirit of Jesus when we was in God's breath. We didn't need the Spirit of Jesus when we was in God's breath. God remembered Noah. Had him on top of the waters. God put Noah was over here in God's breath in the heavens. Creation is heaven. And since we rebelled, there was just one man that was righteous without even knowing Jesus. And Enoch reminded that, look, my great-great-grandson, Noah, he's a righteous man. So God remembered because Enoch reminded God. So God's breath came over here to man's flesh. There's some understanding that needs to be understood, man. Y'all in Revelation? Y'all think you know Revelation? You have not heard Isaiah. You have not read Ezekiel. You're not reading John. All this was in spirit. The beginning was in spirit. Now you get to Revelation, you're like, oh, it's in spirit all of a sudden. No, the beginning, the creation, the first 7 days was all spirit. There is no earth. The reason why there's earth is because Adam got casted. And here comes Noah right behind him. And God placed on top of the waters. This is God's spirit from the beginning. God's spirit on top of the waters. There's water above the firmament, and there's water below the firmament. There's some understanding that needs to be understood. God bless.